Well, we were just talking about doing nothing. We'll do nothing for a few moments here, except pay attention and breathe. So take 3 deep breaths to begin. In and out, in, out, and in and out. And then go ahead and just breathe normally. Just let your breath come and go as it wants to. Don't need to follow any breathing pattern or breathe in any special way or go for deep or long breaths. You may have one short breath followed by one long breath. That's quite all right. Just pay attention to that breath, though. We kind of are pausing to look at the breath. And we sometimes talk about stepping back. But I think that pausing is a more important way to think about it. Because we are our breath. We don't want to separate it from us. So not only paying attention to it, but just really being your breath and feeling it. Feeling your belly rise as you breathe in, fall as you breathe out. Just feeling fully what it's like to have these bodies that we live in and the wonders they can take us through walking, breathing, eating good food, doing nothing, doing work. Just to feel that fully instead of stepping back from it. Too many of us treat our bodies like a car. We run it till it's run down, and then we finally have to put it up on blocks for a while rather than nurturing it and taking care of it. And one way is just to pause and do nothing for a few moments. To just breathe without doing anything else. Letting your thoughts come up and come and go. But just watching that breath. How it begins slowly. You draw that air in through your nostrils. Feel the coolness of the air. Then it kind of picks up speed as you gather more that fresh air into your lungs. And then it just immediately turns around and begins a cycle of breathing out. You feel your belly fall. You don't even need to push that air out in a way. Your body just naturally relaxes. The air leaves. What's surprising when you watch this is how little you have to do to really force yourself. We say the body does the breathing on its own, but even that is so relaxed. Your lungs just naturally fill when you've emptied them out from the last breath. And then to keep your breath in, you'd have to hold it. Instead, if you just stop breathing in, the air leaves your lungs, and you find then that your lungs are empty again, and you begin to breathe in. And I think it's so wonderful to pay attention to the breath, to watch our breath, because we get to learn about cycles, almost seasons. I say seasons because we're finally really feeling like spring is here to stay. Warm, sunny days. All those things that you don't even realize are reminding you that it's spring. It was warm enough yesterday, I didn't need a coat. I walked into the dentist's office and they had a baseball game on the radio in the background. I thought, oh, that's a sure sign of spring. We were talking here just a few moments ago about all the animals stirring, the beginnings of life, buds just beginning to form on the trees. Soon we'll see the daffodils coming up, if they aren't already beginning to poke their heads out. And breath is like that too. As I say, if you notice, the breath begins kind of slowly till your lungs fill with air. What you could kind of feel are like the full days of summer. Sunlight almost all day long, lots of activity, lots to do. And fall is that moment when you begin to breathe out. And I always say, if you'll pay attention, you notice as you've exhaled all the air, there's a momentary pause, kind of like the stillness in the depths of winter. You're in before a fire and just hibernating. We have a lot in common with the bears that way. And then before you know it, the snow is melting, spring is beginning, and you feel that air begin to flow into your lungs again. Feel yourself opening to the world in the same way the flowers do, the animals do. They're beginning to look for food. You can watch the robins fighting over mates. All that energy, as your in-breath kind of draws that energy into. And then when that's all been created, when summer is in full swing, we begin to feel it ending. You reach the end of the in-breath and begin to breathe out, and letting things fall away as we do in fall, and then entering into winter. And I think what's especially wonderful about that and seeing it in the breath is we get to see in just those few moments how things end and then begin again. We can feel that momentarily in the spring when we are aware of that sun on our faces, aware of the smells and feeling of being out in the world again without down jackets and gloves and hats. We feel a little more free in the world. But pretty quickly, we're taking that for granted. Pretty soon it's summer, rather than appreciating it as we thought we would in the depths of winter when it's 20 below. We long for a warm day. We may be complaining about the humidity or the heat on this particular day. So we don't always see that the seasons are another cycle where we see that ending and beginning over and over again. We see that rebirth in the spring, the rebirth with each breath. So we could think that each new breath is like our birthday all over again, starting over again, beginning new, letting go and leaving behind this last breath, this last moment, stepping forward into the new day, the new world, the new breath. We can feel that freedom there for a moment. And we can feel the slowing down, quieting as the breath comes to an end. Again, that moment of complete stillness and silence. It's It's interesting in that pause between the breath. Not only does your body become still, but if you watch very closely, your mind even slows down for that fraction of a second before the next breath. And then there's that gathering energy again, the sun beginning to get warm, the air beginning to energize us. And then that breathing out of the everything coming together in that breath we've taken. I think most of us know if you want to lift something heavy, you do it on the out breath. You take a good deep breath, let that air out, and you can lift more than you thought you could. That's where the fullness of the energy is. I think of it too sometimes that it's like when we were young and swinging on a swing, you'd have to take a running start and then you'd fly into the sky with that swing beneath your hips. And suddenly there's that moment where you know you've reached the peak of how high you can go, and you feel yourself start to go back. And then you give that kick to your legs, that pump of your legs, and you're moving forward again, going as high as you can, feeling that moment again where you start to fall. In the same way the belly falls as we breathe out. And there is that moment on the backswing, I guess you'd say, where you almost feel as though you're frozen in the air, weightless. Probably about the closest we feel to being able to fly for that moment when we're just floating there. And then we begin to fall and rise again. Much like that breath, with each one a new beginning. Each one kind of kick-starting ourselves and our life as we breathe in, gather that energy, and then begin to fall again. And when you look for it, when you think of it that way, you see all the cycles everywhere, whether they're long-term cycles or short cycles. The breath, the seasons, thoughts, emotions, even things like depression. We were talking about that earlier. That comes up of its own and usually will fall away of its own if you wait long enough. Now, for some of us, it may be serious enough we can't wait and we have to take action. But it's something I think most doctors know, that most things get better on their own. They realize they do very little to help people get better. Sometimes you may need to rest and just wait. And then you think, well, that doctor really helped with what he told me to do. It was time and patience, letting your body re-energize itself, moving through a period of winter, and then beginning spring again. Here in this town, we have a farm supply store. I love to go in there in the spring when they have the pens full of chicks. People will actually buy to take out to their farm, or now they'll keep them in their backyards, in their neighborhood. That energy of them going every which way and the loud chirping. They never seem to sit still for very long. As much as hearing a baseball game on the radio, when I go in there and walk by those chicks, I know the world is being reborn again with them. Some people say every new flower and every new chick, every time one of those is reborn or born, so is the world born with them. And with each new breath, we have that slight moment of being reborn, moving into that next moment. Again, the magic is you can see all of that with just following your breath, just paying attention to the rhythms of your body. Your belly rising as you breathe in and fall as you breathe out. And you don't need to sit for a long time to do this. I think you could say we do this now, take a longer time so that we can practice and just take that one breath and give it our full attention for a moment. When we're sitting on the couch, when we're in line at the grocery store, when we're having a fight with a friend, we can remember to take that one breath and just pause long enough to pay attention to it and to feel that it is like being born again. Well, each breath is a celebration that you are alive, a birthday. And when you can pause long enough to think of that, you have that brief moment also of gratitude for the breath, for your life, for this moment's birthday. So that's what I'd like you to try this week as you go about your day and your week, whether it's at work or home, wherever you are. Just remember to take that one breath and give it your full attention. Think of it as that rebirth. Think of it with gratitude. And if it's a little hard to remember to do that, you may find you go a couple days and then remember, I was going to pay attention to that. Some people find all kinds of little ways to do that. They may let the phone be what reminds them before they answer it, when we're always so quick to think, oh, the phone's ringing, I've got to get it. Instead, we can use that moment to pause and watch just one or two breaths. The phone will wait for us. And you'll also find whatever is on the other end of the line you're more ready for if you've taken that pause. So take this forward with you into the week and try that several times a day if you can remember. Just think breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and breathing in, and breathing out. And so we'll end this period of practice for today. When you're ready, open your eyes.